From looking at the documentary for the first time, I thought it was quite informative actually, because we learnt a lot of stuff. Well, I learnt a lot of stuff about how music's progressed in the last 10 years. I think that from the narration and the interviews itself gave me a lot of information, such as with the narration we got lots of facts about how music's progressed and what's in the charts, and that was shown as well with the use of different clips like archive footage which was used. With the interviews as well, I got a lot of information on how music's progressed in the last 10 years, with the different ways you can record stuff on new software such as Cubase, which we got told about in, I think it was Mike's interview. And also with Ian's interview, we got told from his point of view how music's progressed in his genre, which is DJing, as he works with Ministry of Sound. So basically he's gave the audience a lot of good information on how DJing and different types of genres have progressed in the last 10 years.
I think it was really informative. I learnt lots of stuff that I didn't know already. I didn't know how easy it is to make music these days, as it Mike Granger was saying. I also hadn't noticed how much music had changed over the last 10 years, where it's more electronically based now rather than kind of pop music and rock and roll type bands. The narration was really good. It told the audience anything they may not have known by just watching the interviews. The opening sequence gave me a little insight into what the documentary was about. Maybe one thing I would have included would have been maybe some statistics, information on chart sales, maybe chart sales back in the 80s compared to nowadays.
I thought the documentary was actually really entertaining. I liked the start of the documentary. The narration was good. We got straight to the point of how music's progressed in the last 10 years. We got lots of B-roll and archive footage which was given to the audience as well, which also related to what the narrator was saying. I also liked the soundtracks which were used throughout the documentary. They were really good, and they kept you focused on what people were saying because you had a catchy sound to listen to as well. During the interviews, I liked all the B-roll footage which was used in the interviews as well, because as a viewer it's kind of boring just watching a whole interview for 2 or 3 minutes. You've actually got something to keep you interested in the interviews, which makes you want to watch it a bit more. Stuff which needed improving the documentary, I thought, was the sound balancing of the narration. It was kind of distorted.
I thought it was really entertaining. I liked all the different interviews, and I liked the way you used the live band, the clip of the local band. I thought that was really good to use them. It was interesting hearing about the differences in the music scene from now till 10 years ago. Really interested in how the use of technology's changed over the last 5 to 10 years. Where years ago you needed your own producer in a studio for bands to make music, and now they can just do stuff online with the right kit and stuff. I mean, that's really interesting for me, because some massive stars like the likes of Justin Bieber and Ed Sheeran and they kind of started off by posting videos on YouTube and that. So that for me is really interesting, and for me personally that's been a huge big change in recent years, and a lot of new artists coming through and coming onto the scene. DJ scene as well, it was interesting how that had changed over the last few years. I can remember the massive big rave scene and that years ago, how massive kind of raves and electronic music and stuff was. So it is interesting to hear that DJ talking about how things are a bit quieter and more subdued these days, and kind of he was almost wishing he was back kind of 5-10 years ago living through that. So it's just interesting to see how things have changed over the last 5 years.
The technical aspects in the documentary I thought were really good. The documentary throughout the whole thing was really, really professional. The quality of the photos and film taken was really good. You know, I couldn't see any like megapixels on there or anything. Everything was really like spot on and sharp. I also thought that the the quality of the soundtrack was good as well. It was really high quality. It wasn't too loud, and it didn't overplay what people were saying. I thought like the lighting was good as well. You know, it wasn't too dark, apart from probably the last interview, obviously, because that was in quite a dark area. And also as well with the last interview, not only was it quite dark, but because there was like stuff going on in the background as well, it sounded a bit distorted, and at times you couldn't really hear what the band was saying.
I thought it was a really good documentary and enjoyed watching it, and almost wanted to watch more of it. So just that 5-10 minutes was definitely grabbed my attention. I like the way he used like the mix of music and the interviews with the DJ and the sound guy. So it's just really interesting and a good quality product. As I say, definitely if it'd come on the screen, I wouldn't have turned it off. I'd have sat and watched through it. I thought it was a really interesting subject too. Obviously from a personal point of view, kind of I probably remember more of the 80s and 90s music, and so it's interesting for me the way music's changed as well. So yeah, the content, the kind of what the documentary was about was all really interesting for me.
I think it did that because it was literally just like you'd expect any other documentary on TV to be like. For example, there were lots of different interviews which were shown like all the way throughout the documentary, which I thought was good because they're all like spaced out and they're not just one after each other. Another thing I liked was how each person who got interviewed in the music documentary were like from different genres of music. So for example, you've got like Ian Austin, who's a DJ in Ministry of Sound, and you've got Broken Rain, who's like a like rock metal band. So they each had like their own opinions on how their type of genre of music's progressed in the last 10 years. Also, I liked how there's like archive footage between each interview as well. So it just like I said before, it spaces out each interview so they're not like one after each other. Something which I think needed improving more was like more archive footage of stuff which was from like 10 years ago. So like maybe, you know, when you had like the last Ketchup song playing, have a bit more like about them, a couple more shots on them and other artists like, I don't know, Eminem or something like that. You know, people who obviously people listen to now and used to listen to 10 years ago. I also think that like the shots from like certain interviews, like Mike's interview and Broken Rain, I think they were a bit too long, so they could have got like shortened down a bit. Another thing was like the narration at the beginning. It sounded a bit like plain. I reckon if they had like a narrator who was you know, had like a better like tone of voice and had a deeper like voice of God type thing, would have been a bit better as well.
Is there anything you'd improve on?
Probably the narration. I just think it might have had more impact if there'd have been a few more pauses. Maybe when the music was playing, or maybe some of the kind of longer shots and stuff. But I thought the photography work was really, really good. Some of the close-ups and were really good, really well used, the way they were cut in and out of the documentary. So on the whole I thought it was great, but as I say, the narration maybe sounded a bit bland at some times, so obviously on a longer show it would probably get a bit tedious, so probably break it up a little bit.